The Leo Alves podcast. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Leo Alves podcast. And in today's podcast episode, I'm going to discuss with you why fat loss feels harder after 30. And of course, I'm going to provide the solutions as well. The reason why I'm speaking about today's subject is just because it is a subject I do hear about time to time on like threads, for example, Twitter, where people like to blame their metabolism, the fact that they're getting older. They also tell others, just wait until you're 30, you're 40, you're my age, you're 50, whatever it might be. So I think having a deeper dive into this subject as a whole could be really good for you. Now, before I get stuck into the main subject, which is what I just mentioned to you, I'm going to start with today's more casual segment, as I always do, and then you can just like skip in the timestamps. You can look at the timestamps and just like skip straight to the main part if you're not interested in like the more casual segment of this episode, which, truth be told, never takes more than 5 or 10 minutes. But yesterday, I received my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu blue belt, which I'm very happy about. Now, if you're listening to like my podcast episodes consecutively, I think it was in the last episode where I discussed passing the exam, which might just feel like I'm speaking about jiu-jitsu all the time, where it is a part of my life. So I am going to discuss it time to time, but it's been over a week, maybe like 10 days since I recorded a podcast episode because, like I say, I like to backlog them. Right now, I've not been doing a very good job of that because I've been away. And it's kind of like caught up on me, so I'm trying to like get back into routine with it again. So it's been a while since I discussed it out loud myself. And besides, obviously graduating yesterday. And you know what? I'll share the link for my graduation post in the show notes of this podcast episode, so you can just like see the post I uploaded on Instagram if you're curious. And on that note, if you do check it out, then do follow me as well. Otherwise, yeah, it was a nice feeling. It was a great feeling. It's something I've been working towards for a while now. I wouldn't say it's like something that was actively on my mind where I was like, I want my blue belt, I want my blue belt, I want my blue belt. I was just showing up as a white belt and trying to be as consistent as I could and understand the concepts, which I mentioned this on the last podcast episode as well, I think, which is very much like fat loss, like fitness, where, if you're always obsessed over, I want to lose 20 kg, I want to lose 20 kg, I want to lose 20 kg, that doesn't do anything for you. You have to get fixated with just the process of it, like the habits, the daily tasks that you need to do or the weekly tasks that you need to do that are going to get you to that outcome. So what's going to help you lose 1 kg? Think about that first. And, that's how I was kind of approaching my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu blue belt, because it was kind of out the blue as well, where they were just like, it's time for you to do your exam for your blue belt. To be fair, I did think it was about now. I joined about 2 years ago. Was I consistent during that time? No, because I had an injury which put me out for like 5 months, and there was like 1 month of traveling and then another month of traveling. So it was more like a year and a half, which sounds about right for a white belt going into blue. But yeah, it's a nice feeling. Maybe you know nothing about martial arts or jiu-jitsu, and if that's the case, maybe you're still happy for me, and thank you very much. But yeah, it's just a nice little life goal. People are already speaking to me about the next belt, like the purple belt or the one up, or the black belt, which is like the most sought after belt. Like, I'm not thinking about that. I just got my blue belt, and like I said, it's just about showing up daily, weekly, whenever you can, try and understand the concepts, be a good part of the jiu-jitsu community, in my case specifically, and just do the best I can and be consistent, and things will really happen on the back of really good consistency. Like I said, so with you on fitness and fat loss, just show up daily, do your workouts, hit your step goal, hit your protein goal, track your calories. Those are the things that we want to focus on, right? It's like losing 10 kg and then everyone's like, oh, what about the next 10 kg? And it's just like, whoa, I just got here, like, chill out, like, okay, I'm not going to worry about this next 10 kg. I know I just need to keep showing up, and it will happen one day, whether it's, I don't know, 3 months, 6 months, and this is in your case, like a year, whatever it might be. With the purple belt, I think the average amount of time is like 3 years, perhaps. It could very well take longer. Who knows what the future has in store? It depends on a lot of things. But yeah, overall, this is just me saying I'm very happy. It was a great day. My wife came to see because friends and family could come along as well, and it was a very busy dojo. So yeah, I'm pumped. And on that note as well, like the one downside is the fact that my dojo is relocating now. Like they're going to a new place, which it's going to be tricky for me now because they're relocating a week from now from me recording this podcast episode. And I don't know how I'm going to get there because I usually walk to my dojo, which is like an 18-minute walk, which to some people might sound long. I enjoy the walk. Like it's a way to just get me out the house and get moving, especially if I haven't really left the house that day, with me working from home and doing one-to-one online fitness coaching where I'm often communicating via email, whatever it might be, social media. So I am at home on my laptop, on my phone a lot when it comes to business. So I quite like that walk, but now it's moving 2 kilometers further away from my house, where it's like now it's at the point where I cannot realistically walk there. So I might need to invest in a car soon, which I wasn't really looking to do, but it might be time, because if I don't, I won't be able to go to Jiu-Jitsu anymore. And public transport in Portugal is like a bit, it's not one I want to keep relying on every time I want to go. And I'm obviously not going to keep Ubering it or something. So let's see. Anyway, let's get stuck into the subject of today's podcast episode, why fat loss feels harder. And actually before I do get on to the subject, I think I want to mention one more thing. It just shows that you need to really make a habit convenient if you want to be consistent with it, because just the fact that jiu-jitsu is about to become a lot more inconvenient for me in the month of, like, initially at least, while I try and sort out an alternative, I'm not going to be able to be consistent with it. So that means I'm not going to be able to show up, at least for the short term. I reckon for at least a month. And it's just like with fitness and fat loss, you need to make your environment convenient, or you need to optimize it in ways that's going to allow you to be more consistent. Whether it's don't bring the junk food in your immediate environment, bring healthy snacks into the house, have your gym clothes ready the day before, things like that, and you just find, and you'll find when your environment or things have been laid out more conveniently for you, it becomes easier to be consistent as well and keep showing up and then get to the desired goals that we were talking about before. Anyway, that was just the last point I wanted to mention. So on to the subject of today's podcast episode, why fat loss feels harder after 30 and how to fix it. So you've probably heard people blame a slowing metabolism for weight gain in their 30s, but according to solid scientific studies, and this might surprise you, your metabolism actually stays remarkably stable from like the ages of 20 to 60 roughly. So that means it's not actually your metabolism. If it stays stable from 20 to 60, it's not your metabolism. And I know it's easy to initially hear this and just think, Leo, you have no idea what you're talking about. It definitely is, because I am living proof of that. Things got infinitely harder as I got older. The same things don't work anymore, etc., etc. And this is me saying, hold on, just give me a moment. That's why we're here for today. So why is fat loss feeling so much harder? Well, I'm going to discuss 4 potential reasons. There could be more reasons, but this is just 4, I think, very common and very overlooked ones that I think happens a lot more than you might realize. And again, it's not a be all and end all list. It's not in any particular order. It's just things I want you to think about. And I think you're going to agree with me by the end of this. And the first one is you simply make more money. And that sounds great in theory. It's like, yes, I make more money. Amazing. How is that making fat loss harder? Well, it's until you realize that more money often equals more eating out, more takeaways, more drinks with friends, more social occasions that usually involve food. And convenience foods become a slippery slope when one no longer has to live more frugally around food. So again, when you are eating out more often, when you are having more takeaways, when you are going out to drink with your partner, with your friends, with your, whatever it might be, again, all this eating out, it adds up. Whereas you wouldn't have been doing it as much when you were younger. You often hear that saying, right? When you would ask for like a McDonald's and your mom's like, oh, we've got McDonald's at home, or whatever it might be, or we've got like the next best thing at home. Now you can have that McDonald's, or you can have that restaurant, whatever, X restaurant, Y restaurant, whatever it is that you want to have, you can have it now, because again, you make more money, you're an adult, you can make your own decisions. And again, making more money can indirectly result in you, again, just consuming more overall calories, which is definitely going to be one reason. Now, point number 2 is you might have kids now, or maybe someone that you have to look after, whether it's, in my case, it's like a younger brother, which I don't think is very common, but there's quite a big age gap between us. I don't look after him, but he does sometimes come and stay with me in the summer. When he was 13 and then when he was 14, and I'm looking after him. So just takes up more time. They're a joy. Kids are a joy, but they're also a time vortex. And suddenly, evenings that are filled with, before they were filled with you doing your own thing, whether it was a workout, whether it was preparing a nutritious meal. Now it's filled with the days are filled with school runs, bedtime routines, leftover fish fingers, just something to try and be convenient, because now you feel like you've got so much more on your plate because you're looking after much younger people who can't really look after themselves sometimes, or if they did, they probably wouldn't make very good decisions a lot of the time. So yeah, it's just now you have kids as well. A lot of time just has to go to them, which before you were free to dedicate that same time to exercising, to going on walks, to just maybe doing things that were more in line with your health and fitness goals. And now this isn't me saying that this is impossible to still do those things when you have more money or when you have kids, but just give me a moment because I'm going to get stuck into that as well. But anyway, point number 3, your career has taken over. So, remember when you were younger and you had a part-time job, or you were just starting out in the world of work? Well, now you've climbed the ladder into a role with more responsibility, longer hours, higher stress. These are all things that's just going to take over a lot more in your life. It's easy for fitness to feel like an afterthought when you're always on a deadline, for example, or always having jobs to finish, or meetings to attend, or emails to write. Fitness can no longer be as much of it just can't be at the center in front of your life a lot of the time, when compared to when you were younger, you had your first job, or you were just working part-time, and it was like a job you maybe didn't really care about. Now it's like, oh no, this is serious. This is my career. I have to be on my best game, for example. So do you see where I'm going with all of these things? It's not necessarily your metabolism. It's a lot of other factors that maybe you haven't been thinking about. But when you deeply think about it, they have really taken over. And that's where I guess you could say the issue is arriving from. And then there's point number 4. Life just feels busier. It's kids, work, social commitments, a doctor's appointment, dentists, friends, holidays, vacation, when you finally do have it after working so hard for quite a long time, cleaning up the house, doing chores, buying furniture, whatever it might be. Your calendar is fuller than ever compared to when you were younger. And I get it. Fitness is often the first thing to fall off the list when life feels chaotic. And that's basically what I wanted to get out of the way first, because again, I think now you're hearing me say all of this, you're agreeing with me and you're nodding, because you're just like, that's so true. It's not your metabolism, that you can't just blame your metabolism for the fact that you're having a much harder time with your fat loss journey, when, like I said, it's very stable from the ages of 20 to 60. It's the fact that very legitimate reasons have started to take over your life. These are, again, like I said, they're very legitimate, but now, and you know what, I was going to say, but now I wanted to say, because I understand, all of this, it might sound like a lot. You've almost lost control of your life. You've got more money, which I guess is not you losing control. But sometimes, with more money, there comes higher expenses. So there is that. And then you might have kids, and then maybe you've got kids or people that rely on you. You know what? They could be the elderly as well. You might be looking after a mom or a dad or a grandma or a granddad. A career's taken over. Life is just busier. And again, it might feel like you've just kind of lost control and you're finding it really hard to fit fitness in. But here is the good news. You can make progress even with limited time. Many people are living proof of that on a daily basis. So there is something that you can still absolutely do. And this is why I'm sat here with you today. I'm not here to just bring bad news, be pessimistic and say, oh, this is why you're not losing weight, give you 4 reasons and then you're done. I'm here to provide reasons as to why metabolism isn't a legitimate excuse, which is, I feel like some people get defensive when they hear that because they genuinely have convinced themselves that's the case. But when you actually think about it, the fact that it's not your metabolism and it is these other things that you can have more control over, it's a good thing, because like I said, you have control over it. There is something you can do about it. Whereas if it was your metabolism, there's nothing you can do because you're getting older. What can I do now? I'm getting older. I can't go against old age, and if metabolism was genuinely declining as you went from 20 to 30 to 40 to 50, then again, you would just feel like you've lost hope because there is genuinely nothing you can do. But in this case, we've realized, yes, actually, it stays stable from 20 to 60. And it's actually just a lot of other reasons that are, again, they're fair reasons and they're fair excuses. But these are actually things I have control over, unlike my metabolism as much. Well, like, of course, there are ways you can improve your metabolism, but if you were to genuinely believe, like I said before, that there was nothing you could do about it, because again, you're just getting older and you have to accept that, like now, we can actually do things about it. And I don't want to keep repeating myself, as I feel like I'm going around in circles now. But like I said, many people are living proof of the fact that there is a lot you can do even with these reasons, because I guarantee you there are a lot of people in your gym right now who have these same reasons. They have kids, they have very important roles at their job, they have mortgages to pay, they have bills to pay, they make more money, they go out for social events still. And again, a lot of people who go to your gym, I guarantee you they're in the same boat, but they're still making time and this is what we're about to discuss. So the first thing you have to do, or you would do well to do, is strength train 2 to 3 times weekly. You see how I'm not saying 5, 6, 7 days a week, because you don't have to do that. That's a mistake a lot of people make. You don't have to live in the gym. 2 to 3 sessions a week can build muscle. It can boost your metabolism. It can improve your overall health. It will do those things. And the most important thing is that you gradually, progressively overload over time. You stay consistent. And like I said, 2 to 3 weekly sessions every single week. It will be life-changing. It will change your life. Again, I've heard many people say, oh, I can't go like 4 or 5 times a week. What's the point? It's like, you don't have to go that many times. You can get really good results with 2 or 3 times a week. I used to train people in person all the time who would do 2 to 3 times weekly, and they saw tremendous results. I still have online one-to-one fitness members who sometimes train twice a week because, life is just very busy for them, and they see great results as well. Shout out Laura right now, who is doing the best she can to get into the gym twice a week because she has a million other things going on and she is still making tremendous progress. Shout out Laura. Anyway, point number 2, aim for a gram of protein. And if you don't know who Laura is, she's a one-to-one online fitness member of mine based in Norway. Now, point number 2, aim for a gram of protein per pound of body weight. So protein, it helps tremendously with fat loss. It keeps you full and it helps you grow muscle. So I feel like this is quite often overlooked as well when people are, again, growing older. Maybe you might associate healthy eating with things that maybe don't matter as much. I'm not saying these are things you shouldn't do, but they're not as big rocks as many people think, like grass-fed, organic everything. I'm never using seed oils. It's like, how much protein are you eating? Most people, if you can't answer that question, then chances are, you're focusing on some of the wrong things. Like, you need to be focusing on your protein intake. And I would say make sure it's at least in triple figures as a start, and then go from there. If you don't know where to start with your protein intake, I would say, what I would recommend is my free 14-day fat loss Kickstarter, because I speak about like protein intake, calorie intake, everything in there. And if you don't know what my 14-day fat loss Kickstarter is, it's just basically every day for 2 weeks, I send you solid tips, if I do say so, to help you nail your nutrition, nail your training, and nail your fat loss journey. Just think of it again as like having me in your corner every day for 2 weeks, just helping keep you accountable with, I think, a lot of like thoughts and approaches. Some are obvious, and I feel like there is others that aren't as obvious as well. So you would do really well to bear a lot of these in mind. Yeah, aim for a gram of protein per pound of body weight, and then go from there. Point number 3, set a step goal. Walking is terrific for fat loss, and I don't want to say I feel like it's underrated, because I feel like so many people say that it's now starting to get properly rated. And I feel like it's starting to get the recognition it deserves in the health and fitness landscape. So if you're struggling to hit your steps, consider a walking pad for home as well. You don't have to like go outside if it's just not possible. Like I said earlier in the podcast episode, set your environment up in a way that's going to allow you to be more convenient, which therefore allows you to be more consistent. Again, like I said, if you don't have time to go outside, buy a walking pad, bring that in the house. And then you can maybe like multitask while you're on the walking pad, which is a brilliant idea. It's a game changer for getting in movement while, working, sending emails, needing to be around the kids and supervising them, like I also mentioned earlier. So again, focus on a step goal, and I think that can help you I know that can help you go a long way. Especially if you're like walking under, I would say 5k steps right now. That's something you could really focus on. And I think, add like 2.5, 3, 4k onto that, you'll see a big difference. And point number 4, and I kind of touched upon this earlier, but I'll go into more depth on it now, is optimize your environment. Set yourself up for success. Avoid keeping tempting treats at home. Prep your gym gear the night before. Stock your fridge with 0-calorie drinks. Bring foods that are going to help you eat healthier, fruits and vegetables, lean protein sources. These are all things that you really want to think about. Small changes add up and they help you make better choices much more effortlessly. I think a lot of people who are struggling with their nutrition, their health, their fitness, and maybe this has been you in the past, you'll look at people who are killing it. They're smashing it. To you, it looks like they just have an effortless time. Like it's just who they are. Oftentimes they don't have like iron levels of willpower. Like they don't have willpower made of steel, like who 99% of people would rival. Do you know what it is? They set their environment. They make it easier for them to make decisions that are in line with their health and fitness goals. I guarantee you, if you go into their house, they won't have sweets and candy and chocolate and cakes everywhere. They have lots of fruits to choose from, lean protein sources, vegetables. Because when you don't bring it in the house, you're not going to be tempted to have it, and you're not going to eventually succumb to having it as well. And this isn't me saying, notice how I'm not saying you can never have it. I'm saying when it's not in the house, you're less likely to have it. So there's a big difference as well, because you can have it sometimes. But again, if you're going to be in a place, let's say at home, I don't know, I'm going to throw a random number out there, 5 hours a day, 6, 7, 8 hours a day. I don't know. Maybe you work from home, maybe you don't. Maybe 10 hours a day. You really need to make it easier for yourself to stay consistent with your health and fitness goals by optimizing the environment within your home. Okay, you have to think about that. And then the final point that I wanted to mention with you is be mindful of alcohol. You know, again, as you grow older, chances are you start drinking a lot more. Maybe, I guess it depends on the person. But, you know, it's not just extra calories, alcohol. It relaxes your decision making as well, makes late night snacking tempting. For example, when you're sober, it's easy to say no to like the greasy takeaway fried chicken or the really filling kebab or the Domino's pizza, because you're again trying to eat healthier. You're on a fat loss journey. You're aware of that. But when you've been drinking, your decision making gets more relaxed. You don't really care as much. And Alan Aragon, who, if you don't know who he is, he's like just an amazing nutritionist, who I will look at his content as well. He once said, he informally called it your fuck it factor. Your fuck it factor goes up when you're tipsy or you're drunk. And you just make decisions that aren't really in line with your goals, because again, you're tipsy or you're drunk and you don't care as much. So cutting back can make a massive difference in many ways, with the calories from the alcohol and with, you know, not having that fuck it factor that is sabotaging your fitness goals. And I would definitely think about this point on a deeper level, cutting back on alcohol, if you are drinking several times a week. So it's just something to think about. So to summarize those 5 points as to what you could do if you're after 30 and you are having a harder time with your fitness and your fat loss, is strength train 2 to 3 times weekly, aim for a gram of protein per pound of body weight, set a step goal, optimize your environment, and be mindful of alcohol. And I know maybe some of them are like, you might have heard me say that and think, Leo, all of those are really obvious. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I know that. Well, if you know that, you know what? You could know that, but you're not doing it right now. And there's a difference between knowing something and doing something, and you're not doing it right now. So think of this as your tough love. I don't want to say tough love. It's a reminder. And, you know, every time I give you a message, whether it sounds like it's tough love or not, it's always from a good place, a place from me wanting more for you, for what you want for yourself and to help you get there. Think of this as a friendly reminder to help you get there. You know, these are things that work. The basics work. And there's a reason why they are repeated time and time again, like, because they work. Okay. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. These things genuinely work. Now, that is it for today's podcast episode. Again, like I said, you don't need to revamp your life, which I think is a mistake many people make, myself included, when I was younger, potentially you as well. Instead, start with small, realistic changes, build momentum, and you'll find like how I ended up being a white belt to a blue belt, or how you might want to lose 10 kg. Things just have a funny way of falling into place, and it really does start to happen. So for, again, more fat loss tips, check out my free 14-day fat loss Kickstarter via the link in the show notes of this podcast episode, which I don't think I mentioned where you could find it earlier. Again, it's the link of this show. It's in the link in the show notes of this podcast episode, so you really want to check that out. And otherwise, be sure to share this podcast episode as well. Helps a small business, which is, again, mine. And otherwise, take care. Have an amazing day. and I'll see you in the next episode. That wraps it up for another episode of the Leo Alves podcast. I do hope you enjoyed listening to this episode. If you did, then please do consider sharing it with your friends, family, group chat, or even anyone else who you know could be interested in listening to that episode. Otherwise, if you haven't already, then please do leave a 5-star review on whichever platform you are listening to this on. And remember, all the relevant links, such as the inquiry form to potentially become a Kairos Online member, my social media handles, a free fat loss guide, and a free workout plan are all also found in the show notes of this podcast episode as well. Otherwise, take care and I'll see you around.